spot, man.
Michigan.
Can you see everybody?
There we
Yeah.
go. Shout me out.
We got G-Mole in here. Come on. G-Mole. Huh? Is he really? Alright. Let's get this show on the road.
Google that for.
That's my stuff I made. It has stats.
No.
Oh.
No. No one else looked at stats, man.
I don't need to look at stats. I see what they do the week before and think about it.
Exactly.
Back in
That
1755,
I'm
they
gonna
laid,
use this how to
they laid the first
And look
yeah.
at what happens.
In the
Look at the
horseshoe,
stats
yeah.
of that, and then base it off of that.
1873.
I don't need to look at all stats.
Hey,
They
Cal,
broke ground.
I see what's on the field.
Cal, back in 18,
My record
okay,
speaks
now.
for itself.
back in
Alright.
1804, they put
Best
nails in
record
the
is
front.
Here we go. My record. Welcome back to the Extra Point College Football Podcast. I'm Max Santha.
I'm D. Williamson.
I'm Landon Jordan.
I'm Josh Cornatzer.
Alex Martin.
And this week we're talking about week 5. Last week, week 4. We saw some extraordinary things happen with 7 seconds to go on the clock. Ohio
Football
State
players.
doesn't get the conversion on the first attempt, but then punches it in with Chip Trayanum and gets the win against Notre Dame. And the Buckeyes move on to 4-0, and the Irish go down. How does that make you guys feel?
Worst
Wonderful. Let's
football
not talk
game.
about
You're
it.
making it feel like
hey, okay.
Absolute worst experience I've had watching a football game in my life.
As someone
Worst weekend of
That
football.
was
of all
my
time.
most favorite experience.
That's like the worst weekend of football I've ever had.
Are we
What
talking
else
about?
happened?
Are we talking about how
Nothing
their?
else happened.
Are we talking about how their coach called out a man that should be in a nursing home? Or,
No.
I mean, I don't
Outside of that, the game itself was good. Notre Dame's defense was really strong. If they had had 11 players, I think they could have had a chance at stopping that.
No.
But
What if
No.
University?
but I don't think they are. So it was a good game. Still not
It
entirely
was a
sold
good
on
game.
Common Core, but he definitely looked better.
In my opinion, Ohio State should have won by 30. Notre Dame's not that high of a caliber team. Unless you listen to Max, they are not that good in my opinion. That's just it.
We'll see how that goes when they play the mighty Blue Devils this weekend.
Yeah, game day.
It'd probably
Durham.
it'd probably go forward
A
for
bludgeon. 50 points. Notre Dame wins. Smokes. Not even close. Mike Oko's gonna get fired because his results.
Are we gonna have like a Miami Dolphins, Denver
Yeah, it's gonna
Broncos
be
style?
70-20.
No, I think it's gonna be a closer game, especially like after them playing Ohio State and that being a really physical game. I think a lot of guys are gonna be worn out going into that game.
No shot.
So,
I think
We're not on that game yet.
anyways, let's move on. So there were some good wins and some bad losses last weekend.
Let's move on.
Um,
Let's move on.
But let's go ahead and take a look at our first game here. We got number 10 Utah taking on Oregon State. They're number 19. And Oregon State's actually favored in this game by 3.5. And that game is on Fox Sports 1. So with this game, I think it's going to be a really close game. I think that Utah covers the spread here. But I don't think they win the game. I think Oregon State comes up with the upset here. And they're both pretty evenly matched teams. Oregon State is the 27th best offense run heavy offense in the country. And Utah's defense hasn't been that great on the passing end, but their rush defense has been really good. So I think this is a spot where DJU needs to come alive if they want to win a big game here. Utah's third in rush defense, and Oregon State is 11th. So two really good rushing defenses, and two pass defenses that aren't as good. Oregon State's being better than Utah's, but I don't think Cam Rising is even back yet. And even if he is, I think is he going to be back this week?
So he was listed as questionable today, and he was doing pregame workouts just in street clothes on against UCLA. I think he's either going to be back this week, but I think that offense does revitalize. But I think he should be back.
Here's the problem with IC. First game, you're playing a physical Oregon State team, and he hasn't been hit yet.
No.
And he's coming off an injury, so that does not help him at all. I think that this is a slugfest type of game, kind of what you saw between Utah and UCLA last week, but I do think Oregon State comes out on top with Utah covering that, so I think they win by field goal.
I disagree. There's a pretty big factor on the other side, on the Oregon State offense. His name is DJ Uyunglele. And he's
statue.
gonna throw like 3 interceptions in this game. With the defense, Utah had some pretty good defense last week. They held UCLA
Yeah.
by like 7 points.
Yeah.
Yeah, 7. Yeah.
I don't even know like if Oregon State's gonna score anything. Honestly, they probably will. But DJ's not gonna do anything. I wouldn't be scared of him if I was Utah.
There's one thing about it, though. DJ's not 2-2 right now. We'll just go ahead and say that. Oh, I didn't mean to say that out loud. Come on. Shout out Grant Mullis tuning in live.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, I think Utah wins. Even if Cam Rising doesn't play, that Utah defense was really, really good against a UCLA team that has a really good freshman quarterback and a new running back that just transferred in that is really good.
Mhm.
And Oregon State, they almost came back to win that game last week, but their defense didn't look that great against Washington State, which I think Utah has a better offense than Washington State. So I think Utah just by that factor, even without Cam Rising, I think they beat Oregon State by about 3 to 7 points.
I got Utah covered. I'm not really sold on Utah without Cam Rising. Their offenses kind of look not great.
Mhm.
It didn't look great against UCLA last week, and it didn't look good. It didn't look good all season.
Yeah.
I was torn on this because I think Oregon State is a decent team, and they're playing at home. But I think Utah's defense will really help them a lot. But I think Oregon State's gonna win too, but it's gonna be like a field goal.
Yeah.
So Utah covers.
Utah's not even top 60 in passing or rushing offense right now, and I think that's partly due to Cam Rising. But UCLA's defense is really good too.
Yeah.
So, I think they're like top 10 like rush defense and stuff this year. I knew they were really good.
They've got that really good guy. What's his name?
Latu,
Latu,
number
yeah.
11, I believe it is.
Yeah,
he's really
on that
good. He's,
D-line.
he'll probably
Yeah.
like a first rounder.
He's really good.
Yeah.
So I can see why that offense didn't get moving.
Yeah. We can move on. Our next game, big time SEC East game here for that race in the East. We got number 22 Florida taking on Kentucky away. Kentucky's currently a 1-point favorite. That game is at 12 o'clock on ESPN. It's a Saturday game. The game that we've discussed before is a Friday night game. With this game, it's like two offenses that aren't like great right now. Florida did get some run game going against Tennessee, and they kind of were able to assert themselves on the offensive line. Like I didn't think they were going to be able to, but they did. And their run defense actually really good against Tennessee as well. And I think they actually faced somebody, so I think they're battle tested. They're playing a good. I think Kentucky's a pretty good team. They're playing them away, so they do get the home field advantage there. I'm not real sold on Devin Leary. I think he's a capable passer, but he threw 2 picks last week against Vanderbilt, and that can change. But their defense also gave up 28 points to Vanderbilt, and so I think this is going to be kind of another slugfest game. Two teams that I'm not sure can get it done through the air, but I think that Florida's run game does it, and I think they cover the spread and they win this game outright.
I agree. I got Florida. Kentucky has an absolute bum as a quarterback. Darren Leary's awful. He shouldn't even be playing college football. He's terrible. The so-called school that he played for before speaks of that.
It has
Oh. They're not even worthy of saying.
Is that the team that beat y'all last year?
We also beat him too with Devin Leary. So Devin Leary lost us too. He's a terrible quarterback. He's not doing good at Kentucky right now. Florida wins. The Gators walk into Kentucky and smoke them.
I agree. I didn't see Kentucky doing anything before the season. I said that during one of our preseason podcast. I didn't think Kentucky was going to be that good this season, and I don't really know what they've done this whole season. Like,
They haven't played anybody there yet.
They haven't really shown anything that they're going to be great.
Yeah.
So I think Florida beats them by a touchdown at Kentucky.
I feel like that Kroger Field is underrated. Plus, this is like a stepping stone. When you're going to play the best team in the country the week after night game in Athens, you got to get something going the week beforehand. So therefore, Devin Leary has a comeback week this week, beats Florida by about, I'm giving them 10 points. beating Florida by 10 at home, noon game, Kroger Field, to set up the Slaughter Fest next Saturday night in Athens. But we'll save that for
They
later.
said the same thing about Auburn last week, and look what they did against Texas A&M.
It sounds like every team the week before you think that they're gonna win just because they're playing Georgia the next week.
That didn't
I've
happen.
heard no evidence of why they're gonna win. I just heard because they're playing Georgia the next week.
The stadium's gonna be loud.
That
Gonna be loud.
the stadium will be
They're a
loud,
basketball school.
Just like
Yes.
just like UNC.
Just like North Carolina. Just like North Carolina.
And Duke.
I don't know what I'm
If we're
saying.
being honest here.
North Carolina's 4-0, and they beat South Carolina more than Georgia did. So
I ain't saying nothing on
I
that.
think both
But
offenses
UNC
are bad
is
for
the top
Kentucky.
four, yes.
That's what I'm thinking.
I think Florida and Kentucky both have okay offenses. I think Florida wins. I think they're just better defense.
Is that, hold on, just time out. We gotta go back on something real quick.
but
Oh, great.
Did Georgia's defense give up that many points to South Carolina?
no, but they didn't win by as much either.
That defense kept.
Why are we comparing North Carolina and Georgia? That's what
Yeah,
I
wait,
Why is
hold
this
on,
happening?
time out.
Why is this happening?
University of Niagara complaining.
Exactly.
Trademark.
That's okay. He
I just
does,
thought it was funny.
that's okay. He does a lot of talk. They beat the overrated Irish last week,
Hey,
so
I
we'll
was
leave that for
fair,
another
I
time.
will say I was wrong about Auburn last week. So
We try to tell you this from the start.
hey, I don't like Texas A&M.
Oh,
Auburn
besides that,
team.
Connor Wegman's out for the season.
I
Max
know.
Johnson is starting for the
I
rest of
did
the
say
season.
10-2, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
I did say
Max
that.
Johnson.
Yeah,
Is
from
he on
LSU.
quarterback?
Yeah.
Anybody whose name is Max doesn't set up for good success, so you can kind of see how that goes.
Moving on.
All right. What's next?
I have no words. Alright, so our next game
Oh, this will be the Slaughterfest.
is number 8 USC, fair by 21.5 at Colorado. This game is at 12 p.m. on Fox. All eyes going to be on Colorado as always throughout these past couple weeks. I think they actually had a higher viewership rating than the Ohio State Notre Dame game did last week.
Yeah, because everyone
Just
wanted
absolutely
to see him
insane.
get beat by 40 points.
Even
Well,
though they got
it's-
murdered.
I think it's crazy, even people that aren't familiar with college football are just watching because of Dion and stuff, which is crazy. That they're getting that much viewership through Colorado and whoever they play. Even though they're getting beat by 100, that people are still watching it. It's kind of crazy.
Dan Lannon, that had a lot to do with Dan Lannon too.
No, that didn't have anything to do
That
with
was
it.
Georgia's former defense coordinator. They led the national championship in 21, but okay.
No, even Dan Lanning said that most of the viewership is because Coach Prime is bringing new people to the
Well,
sport,
Yeah.
which is true.
Yeah.
They're getting ratings out the wazoo right now. Anyways, moving on. Colorado and USC. My feelings on this game. Obviously, Colorado got demolished last week, and I think they knew it themselves that they were going to get beat bad. And if you actually pay attention to college football and not just what everybody else tells you, I think that most people knew that they're going to get beat bad. I don't think anybody expected them to win that game at all. Their offensive defensive line just can't compete at a level with a bunch of 4 and 5 star guys, and I don't think they're at that level yet due to not having recruiting classes come in and just a bunch of transfers. Some guys are coming from D2 and D3 schools that are starting their line right now. So I think that considering that this game is in Boulder and USC showed a lot of vulnerability in their defense last week, I don't think it's fixed as they think it is. I think that Oregon, Colorado's going to put up some points. I can see this being like a 45-28-ish game. I think that USC puts up a lot of points. I think Colorado puts up some points too. But I think that Colorado covers the spread. I still think USC wins, but I think it's closer than the game was last week with Oregon.
I know USC's defense is not great. Yes, Arizona State game run for money, but Texas Tech,
You had to do both.
Texas Tech put 30 up on Oregon. So I don't really think Colorado's defense is just not great, and especially you got Caleb Williams out there throwing dimes all over the field. I don't think they're going to be able to handle USC's offense at all. I think Colorado will score more points, but I still think USC covers that. I think it's just too much for them. Again, I'm not I'm not saying Colorado is a terrible team. They're going to pick up more wins this season, but this is just a different level. Again, like it was with Oregon.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, Colorado's still going to pick up some wins, but they're not at that stage yet to be beating Oregon and USC. I don't see it.
I don't see them winning the game, but I don't see them losing by 21 points
Yeah.
in 2 straight games,
Yeah, that's too many
especially to
points.
this USC team whose defense just goes out there and like lets these bad teams drive all over them on the field. They let Arizona State
And-
drive on them.
They're very susceptible to big plays, and what Colorado's offense relies a lot on those big plays and shots on the field. So I think that Colorado's going to get some of those and convert those in this game to be able to score more.
I think they'll barely cover the spread.
Yeah,
I think
I
maybe
think
they'll
it's
lose
like
by
17
17
points.
points.
Yeah,
Yeah, 20 maybe.
yeah.
I
I agree.
I know Colorado they're gonna have a bounce back game, and they are gonna score some points. I just think USC is just gonna hit them harder, just because they saw how close it was against Arizona State. That game really could have gone to Arizona State. Yeah, it was like a 2-score margin, but at one point it was like I think a 3-point game. It was really close. It was a 1-score game, and Arizona State probably could have won that if their defense had played a little bit better, and it wasn't Caleb Williams leading that offense. I think USC proves that yes, they are one of the best offenses in the nation, and I think they just put a little bit more, and I think they just barely beat Colorado for the spread. I think it's about a 24-point game.
Alex?
You
always
went
say- I
first.
always say-
Landon, you got
Landon?
anything?
They don't want to comment on anything other than SEC teams.
No.
He could care less about Pac-12.
just cut it off.
They're on the other side of the
Cut it
country. Who
off.
cares?
Just cut it off.
Best conference in football right now. That's for sure.
That is true.
Yeah, it is.
Because they have Washington.
It ain't even
Recycle.
it ain't even relatively close.
No.
That game at 12 o'clock? Oh,
Yeah.
that's a 10 o'clock game.
What?
That
Yeah,
game's
it'll be
at
at
10 in the
o'clock.
morning.
It'll be at 10 o'clock.
For
right?
at
yeah,
local
yeah.
time, yeah.
Wait, is Colorado 2 hours?
It's
or
a
1?
2-hour difference.
It's two.
It's two.
It's two.
Yeah, they're. Yeah,
That's
that's
gonna
That's
be
a
an early-
weird time for a Pac-12
And see, that's
game.
Mountain Standard.
That's even earlier for USC because that's a 9 o'clock game
I
essentially
should
for
have known
them.
that. I was 2 hours behind the whole year.
Yeah.
Heard.
Hence why we were
Yeah,
doing
like,
podcasts at
they're
10
the
o'clock
same
at night.
time zone as Utah.
They probably know what time that's just how he is.
But
What?
I,
What?
I think this game actually, thinking about that now, how really the time zone difference. I think it could be close at the beginning, but USC still
Well, yeah, because they're gonna lose an hour.
because they're gonna lose an hour, so it's really gonna be a 9 o'clock game for them in the morning. That's hard to play. That's hard.
That
for
is, dude.
That's
Oh
hard
my
for
gosh,
your body
yeah.
to get going at 9
I think it's
o'clock.
harder for teams to get up at 12 o'clock games like that.
Well, and especially because like Colorado is gonna struggle a little bit because I mean it's hard to get going at 10 o'clock in the morning, but I think it could be a close first quarter.
Hmm.
Okay, bye.
We lost Dean. He might come back like Lamar Jackson. But I don't want him to beat the Browns this time. Anyways, let's go on to the. Let's skip this one and come back to it. And Dean comes back.
Yeah, we got to skip. This is like a grand finale.
All right, 3:30. We'll skip the second one too. Wow, these are all pretty good games. I don't know.
Michigan and Nebraska.
We'll do that one.
Kansas, Texas.
3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Fox, number 2, that team up north, favored by 17 at Nebraska.
Ain't no way you got.
No,
No,
dude,
bro,
no.
you gotta change that.
Okay, listen,
You are
listen,
not.
listen,
No.
listen.
Please explain your reason.
I don't think Nebraska wins, but listen to this. I think it's gonna be a 14-point game. That's exactly what I think, and I'll tell you why.
He's an Ohio State fan.
No.
I'll
tell you why.
Throw that out. Throw
I'll tell you
Ohio
why.
State out.
I'll tell you why.
No.
Michigan has not. The score looks like they dominated games, but they haven't dominated games this year. McCarthy threw 3 picks against Bowling Green. Their offense isn't great right now, and they had Rutgers hanging around with them for a little bit until they pulled away. I think that Nebraska is better than them, and I think they challenged them a little bit. This is their literal first test of the season until Penn State in November. Like, this is it. because Minnesota's not good,
No,
and I think they might play Northwestern too.
that's
But
horrible.
this is like their first decent team they're playing, and I think that this game being away in Lincoln, I think they have some struggles in the first half. And I think they pull away in the second half. I think they win by 2 touchdowns, but I do think it's too many points, especially being away. And what I have seen from them this year, I'm not impressed by anything that they're doing.
Oh, let me say that. I will agree with you that Michigan's not a top 4 team right now.
Yeah.
I agree with you with that. I don't think they are. I think Washington should be in the top 4 over Michigan right now. We're just gonna be honest. But Nebraska is freaking terrible. I mean, the
I know
Matt
Nebraska's
the
bad.
Matt Rule experiment ain't really working out. I just don't.
That's a failed experiment.
I
No,
mean,
I think it's gonna. I don't think it's failed. I think it's gonna take a while for them to be good.
Well, okay,
Because
all right.
That's how
Yeah.
his teams are.
Yeah,
Okay.
it does build slowly.
Yeah.
But I don't see. Yeah, they might start off slow, maybe in the first quarter, but I don't see them only winning by 14. I just don't. I mean, Michigan does have good players. They're just. I don't know what really is going on with why they're starting all these games really slow, but they have held like their defense is actually playing pretty good. They've held like all their teams to like what 6 to 3 points.
Yeah.
I don't think Nebraska's going to really be able to score, if any, points, if anything.
So my thing with this game is, yeah, Michigan's offense definitely isn't looking great right now, but their defense is holding teams to like one score? Like it's only one.
Like 6 to 3 points.
Yeah, it's 7-3 because I know they let up a touchdown with Rutgers, but that was in the first quarter, and it takes some time for the offense to get rolling, but that defense it's been playing really well. Now they haven't played a lot of great teams, but at the same time, I don't think Nebraska's that much of competition. What was it? 10-3. It was like 13-10 against Minnesota.
Yeah.
And they blew it. They blew it.
And yeah, so
Minnesota's not good.
both teams are really bad. So I think it'll look like Michigan's not going to be able to cover the spread, but I think it's going to be another one of those like 34-31 to like 7 games where they're not winning by a lot, but that's also Michigan's play style. They're not really having JJ McCarthy throw that much. They are relying on the run, which is going to be a long sustained drive, which is going to kill the clock.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the reasons why they're not putting a ton of points is they're not relying on big plays to get down the field. They're trying to just punch you down to the point where you're not going to have time to come back against them.
Without Ohio State bias, this game's not close.
Yeah.
This game's not close.
I don't know, man. This is one of those games where I think they're not covering this, dude.
It's Nebraska.
Nebraska.
It's
Yes, they
Nebraska.
have not covered any spread beforehand, but they've also had giant spreads. This is the first realistic spread, I think.
Nebraska's awful. I mean, they are.
I know they're
They
bad.
get blown out by Colorado.
But also, like
Yes.
Josh said, will they be able to score enough points to
I think they will.
It's 17. I think they will.
They will score 4 touchdowns.
Nebraska's
I don't
defense
see them
is
letting
bad.
up more.
Nebraska
than one.
is elite. Big Ten. You gotta remember that. I just had to jump in and say that.
All right? What do you think, Dean?
Michigan wins by 20. I don't see Nebraska doing anything. Nebraska struggled. They couldn't even put up a fight against Colorado, and we all saw what happened in Colorado last week. I don't think Nebraska's a good football team at all. And I think they'll win by 20, but I don't think it'll be like a blowout. They're gonna win by 17, maybe 20. But I just don't see Nebraska's offense
No.
doing anything.
There's not. There's hardly even an offense.
They might score 7 points.
They got a clipboard man out there, the quarterback.
Like Josh said,
Well-
31-7. It's just that seems like what Michigan's been doing all
Yeah.
year. It's 31-7.
They've been only putting up scores in the 30, but the thing is, they've also only let up 3 to 7
It's gonna be
points.
31-14. That's my.
We've
game.
already talked about this game
I'm
for
thinking
too
it's
long.
going to be 34 to 7. That
31.
We've already talked about this game for way too long and what it's credited for.
I was about to say Nebraska brings that game talk down.
All right.
How about a little bullet?
Let's
Did we
do.
skip over Georgia?
Yeah, we were waiting.
You were pretty
Oh,
occupied.
yes.
3:30 on CBS. Number 1, Georgia is taking on Auburn and the Deep South's oldest rivalry. Georgia is currently 14.5-point favorites. Dean, you want to send it away?
Do I want to send it away? What y'all think I'm about to pick Auburn or something? Auburn's trash. This isn't even a contest. This is an
Dean,
average.
or Josh, do you want to say anything?
I'm thoroughly proven wrong. Auburn looked atrocious against Texas A&M. Texas A&M is not a good team. Auburn was just that bad. I don't see Georgia, mind you, hasn't looked the best this season. They are not last year's Georgia, but they're still Georgia. They still crushed Auburn by more than 14.5. This is the first game where I think they actually cover the spread, and I think it's going to be like 21-28. Auburn is just not looking
Auburn does not have a freaking offense, and Georgia's defense is elite.
good.
I don't care what you say, their defense is elite until they lose.
It's elite. I wish I was coming out of Max's mouth, sitting beside me.
Georgia, as the 2-time national champions back to back, they are still elite until they lose. I don't
The
care
only
what
way I
anyone
see
says.
this.
This
I don't
Auburn team's
think
terrible.
I don't think you can translate what they did last year to this year's.
No,
season.
but
They're,
still, you
they're
can't.
terrible. They're, in my opinion, they're
But
terrible.
their defense is that good. They have their offense is decent. Auburn's terrible. This ain't gonna be close.
Kirby
I
Smart
think
is
Georgia gave
Kirby
up
Smart's
like
is still
21
gonna-
points to UAB last week.
But you got to think.
Yeah,
we also put in our,
they
our
couldn't
backup
cover the spread.
defense third quarter, 5 minutes.
That's true, but then they scored 14 in the first half.
Yes.
Wasn't it a close game at halftime?
28.
I think this game will be close to halftime, but I think Georgia pulls away in the second half. That seems to be all they do.
Do you think they
this
cover
year.
the spread?
Yeah, I think they
Yes,
cover the
this
spread.
is-
Auburn's, it's
This is the closest they've
Okay,
also had
this
the
is-
spread.
This is what I think.
I hadn't even got
they'll
to
win by 17 at least. 17 or more.
You can
they're
go
gonna
last.
win by in the second half.
So, I think that this is either going to be a game where Georgia turns it up, or I think like this is a possibility too. Like coming off a road loss, Auburn comes back home. They change a few things. Play calling changes. Hugh Freeze, I think he's a really good coach. I think that they're like this is. I think this is like a 14-point game, like right on the money as far as the spread. I don't think that Georgia pulls away like so far, but I think like their offense hasn't been like super high flying, and I think Auburn's defense is good enough to keep that in check to force them to run the ball, which is going to burn a lot of clock, which in turn I don't think they're going to score that many points, and I think that Auburn keeps this game close enough to where that they cover the spread.
No, I don't see that. Auburn's offense got suffocated by A&M. Now they got to play Georgia.
And that's a bad team.
I just,
Yeah,
that's
I-
just
I
a
don't-
team.
But I think
Pancake
things can. I
schedule.
think things can change.
I think
Yes,
they could
they
change,
can.
but Auburn's still a bad football team.
Auburn, right now on offense, Auburn has literally nobody that really sticks out, even makes you question, can they even put up 17 points against Georgia? I mean, they really don't. Auburn, they have nobody. Their defense, they have 2 or 3 good impact players. But their offense, they literally have nobody that would even make you think they could remotely put up 17 points against Georgia's defense.
But the team they played last week did that too. In the first half, they put up 14.
Auburn
Auburn
They're
has
all-
better athletes than
but Auburn's offense
than
is
UAB
still, I'm
does.
telling you,
I don't know about that.
UAB, dude.
UAB
Auburn definitely has better
It's-
athletes
yeah.
than UAB.
it's a rivalry game though. I mean, Georgia's, there's probably last week a few plays in the UAB game that Georgia's probably going to tighten up and be more aware of the situation. Just let these, I mean, Georgia's letting just middle of the field plays go last week like no tomorrow. I mean, I don't think Auburn's going to run routes in the middle of the field, letting them get 20, 30 yards downfield. I mean, I feel like Georgia's going to turn the pressure up this week. They're going to realize they're at Auburn. I mean, this is a rivalry game. As bad as either team may be on one side or the other, anything can happen in rivalry games. But I feel like Georgia has definitely had the edge since Jarrett Stidham's left for Kerryon Johnson, 2018, 2019, 4 or 5 years ago, Auburn. I feel like Georgia's turned up the pressure. And I feel like until Auburn beats us, that Georgia's still a 17, 20-point superior opponent in the game. I feel like Auburn's defense, they have enough to challenge Georgia's offense, but at the end of the day, I feel like Georgia's offense still's got too much. There's nothing on Auburn's offense that can constantly keep up. And like I said, I don't give Auburn 17 points from Georgia's defense. I really don't. I feel like Georgia's got athletes on the outside, got Brock Bowers, crank the pressure up. I'm feeling like a 35 to 35-10, 35-14 football game.
I think it'll be.
I
Yeah,
don't think Georgia's gonna score that much.
I think they will. I think McConkey, not McConkey, unless he's coming back.
He's been practicing this week.
If McConkey comes back, that'll definitely help Georgia's offense. But Brock Bowers, if you get him going, he's not really being stopped.
24-14 game.
No shot.
No.
No shot.
South Carolina's
Carolina's a
better
better
than
team.
Auburn is.
It doesn't take much.
But Auburn's gonna be at home.
I'm telling you.
They
They
has to
don't
be
even have a
happening.
quarterback that could potentially do anything with Georgia.
I'm telling
I think
you, these
UAB's
crazy things happen after teams go on the road and lose and then come back home.
I
Crazy
think
things
UAB's
happen.
quarterback was
And
better
it's a
than
I
rivalry.
feel like Auburn's just too bad for that to happen. And Georgia, their defense is just that good.
I would want to believe that, but nothing like this could definitely be a game that's like a 28-point game. I'm not saying that, but like I just have not seen it from Georgia this year. and
If
I'm like,
Auburn put
wow,
up a
they're
better,
like gonna put teams away.
if Auburn had put up a better fight against A&M, I would agree with you. But they just didn't. They just
There's-
didn't. They
that
got beat by
defense-
17.
And that defense did not look good. They were letting up some plays that they really should have stopped.
I'm not defending UAB scoring the amount of points that they did against Georgia,
They do have a
but I felt Georgia they were on cruise control. They were
Yeah.
very concerned in that game. Granted, I'm not defending that, but
But
they were on.
here's the thing, too. You gotta think. They've won back-to-back national championships. How hard is it for you to like get up and keep doing that like week after week after you've already like there's got to be some complacency. I know like how much more bulletin board material is there for them? Like everybody, they keep them at number one. Like they haven't dropped for the teams they played or anything like that. Like I don't know. I think some of that is got to be a factor in like these first 4 weeks too. And I think that can definitely change in an instant. But
I get that. I just don't think Auburn's going to be the team that's going to do it.
Uh,
I think it could definitely happen this season
Yeah.
where Georgia loses a game
Yeah.
that no one's expect that. You know,
I'm interested to see what happens with Ole Miss and LSU this week.
let's just jump to
But
that.
Yeah, let's.
Jackson Dart.
we got a couple games. We got games.
Yeah. All right, we got 3 more or 2 or just this one before we get to that one, but we got 3 more games left. 3:30 on ABC. We got number 24 Kansas at number 3 Texas. Texas favored by 16.5. I think Texas is good, but they struggled against Wyoming, and they did put Baylor away last week pretty good. But I think Kansas is a pretty good team. I think Jalen Daniels is a good quarterback. They have the highest third down conversion percentage in the country right now, and they're making plays on offense. And they beat BYU last week, I believe it was.
Mhm.
I think about 14 maybe. I think it was like 48-34 or something like that. So pretty decent win there. They're 4-0. I think Texas definitely wins this game, but I don't think they cover the spread. I think that Kansas is a good enough team to not get blown out against Texas. I mean, Texas is not playing like Baylor's not good, but it's still like Baylor. And the week before they played Alabama. Or they played Wyoming, and that was kind of a rough fight there. So I think that this game is a little closer. I think Texas still wins this game, but I think it is a little closer. I think it's like a 10-point game, 14-point game.
Yeah, Lance Leipold has done a daggone miracle. with
He's
Kansas.
really good.
I mean, this is the first time I think they've been 4-0 in back-to-back seasons since like 1917.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, Kansas is good. They got a daggone good offense. They got a good quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're putting up 30, 40 points every game.
Yeah.
And every season, Texas has a game where they blow it.
Yeah.
Every season. Now, granted, this team could be different.
I think this team's different.
I think this team could be different, but I think this game is going to determine if Texas can be like a contender.
Yeah.
Because if they sit here and get beat by Kansas, then they're done.
Yeah.
There's no
If
no
they put
redemption.
Kansas away, like for sure, like
Yeah.
Texas is
Yeah.
it.
I still think Texas wins this game, but I think Kansas will push them
Yeah, I
enough.
think so too.
Because I mean, we saw like 2 weeks ago. when they
And the
played
thing
Wyoming.
is,
that game was-
Alabama couldn't stress their. Besides like a 40-yard bomb down the field, Jalen Milroe is not gonna hurt you between like 10 and 15 yards.
No.
Jalen Daniels can hurt you between 10 and 15
Mhm.
yards. I think this game's 10 to 14 point game.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, Kansas covers. I really think that. I don't think them being at Austin. I mean, let's be real. Austin's not that intimidating of an environment.
Yeah.
If we're gonna be honest. I mean, Kansas has played well. I mean, they're 4-0. I mean, I think they can definitely cover. But
Watch this be on like the the board at Texas like in 3 weeks. From the Extra Point Pod. Austin's not that loud, let's be honest.
Someone's gonna flip that. Someone's gonna flip that.
Austin's not that loud.
I didn't say that was loud. I just said it's not an intimidating environment.
Oh, they're gonna take that for sure.
Oh wow.
At least we have to get some money off of this. So, gotta be something.
I'll do it right now.
Points
down.
down.
Go and throw me the 15-yard penalty.
All right. This is definitely gonna be Kansas covers the spread. I think if a few plays go Kansas's way, I think they can win this game. They're a good sleeper team. If one of two teams fall off in the Big 12, they can make the Big 12 championship if they can win those big games. I think if Oklahoma or Texas starts falling off, Kansas could take their place. Kansas State hasn't looked the best this year. They lost to Missouri against. I mean, that was a great game. But Kansas State hasn't looked the best, and I think
State's bad.
and Oklahoma State is
Oklahoma
not
State's
good.
really bad.
And those were the only other two teams that I think could actually really pull off a chance at winning the Big 12.
Mhm.
So I think if either one of the Texas or Oklahoma teams falls off, I think Kansas could take their place. And if they win this game, I think they can really push for that Big 12 title. And I think Kansas has the ability to actually win those big games this year. They at least cover the spread. I think they could win this game.
I feel like Kansas is one of them teams where like if you come out and they play along with you and you don't hit them in the mouth and make them think that they can hang around with you, that they'll give you as hard as time. I feel like they'll definitely cover, but I feel like also if Texas comes out and hits them in the mouth and they show them about 2 drives that they can stop them and Quinn Ewers and offense can get rolling,
Yeah.
I feel like if you put Kansas away early, I feel like Texas could definitely win by 20 points.
Yeah, you
But
can't let Kansas hang around.
But I feel like if you give Kansas like if this is a tight game at halftime, I feel like Kansas could ride it out all the way to the end. I feel like Texas got to hit them in the mouth like the first 2 or 3 drives and show them that they're a top 4 football team.
Yeah, they can't have the same game like they did against Wyoming where they didn't show up till the 4th quarter.
Yeah.
Not with this Kansas.
I think you got to hit Kansas in the mouth and keep going with it until you got to make them fold before they keep
Yeah.
riding your back.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Alright, let's move on to the next game at 6 o'clock on ESPN. We got number 13 LSU favored by 2.5 at Ole Miss, number 20. I'm gonna change my pick on this one.
Yes,
I think last year LSU absolutely tore them apart. Jaden Daniels' legacy game, he had like 1 million yards passing. I think that this year LSU has allowed people to hang around. Last week they played Arkansas. They could have lost that game, honestly. KJ Jefferson was hurting people with his legs. I think Jackson Dart can do that as well. I think Jackson Dart's going to hurt them with his legs, and I think that's why they're really susceptible. Their pass rush really hasn't been getting home. I heard a stat. I think it was like LSU's like 2nd worst in the SEC in sack rate this year. Despite having Mason Smith and a lot of guys that can actually get after it. So I was kind of shocked hearing that. But I think this game's at home for Ole Miss. I don't think Lane Kiffin wants to lose another game, especially after losing against Alabama last week, and they were really inept on offense. I think the Alabama's defense is really good though. But LSU hasn't really shown that. Gave up 35 last week to Arkansas. So I think that Ole Miss, I think they win at home. I think they cover the spread. And I think they probably win by like a field goal or something like that. But I do think they get this big win. LSU kind of goes down and everybody loses their minds. And the SEC West is up for grabs.
I think this is a revenge game for Jackson Dart. He struggled against Alabama last week. But
Is this like your new team now?
I got nothing now, man. Jackson Dart's my quarterback now. Michael Penix. I think what you said earlier, you lose on the road and then you're going back home.
Yeah.
Especially as a ranked team,
Yeah.
you don't want to lose 2 games in a row
Yeah.
just like that to another ranked team
And
be
not
completely
only
thrown
that,
out of it.
They've that's an SEC loss.
They're
LSU
not-
doesn't have one yet.
they're
Neither
not-
does Alabama.
I don't see it, man. 6 o'clock, I think Ole Miss wins by 10 points. I think LSU struggles again.
LSU has been way too inconsistent for me to
Yeah.
pick this
Yeah.
game. I mean, they got blown out by Florida State. They ran
Blown
all
out.
over them.
Yeah.
And then they destroyed Mississippi State, and then last week they struggled with Arkansas. So there's no this is what this team's gonna be. They've just been struggling way too much with just inconsistency, and this is a daggone good Ole Miss team. Yeah, they struggled with us like the Ole Miss. I mean with Alabama, but they're still a good team. They got a good quarterback. I don't see them losing at home.
No,
Not the LSU. Not with as inconsistent as LSU has been. I don't think LSU knows what they are right now as a team. Because I mean, like I said,
LSU, like when they played Jordan Travis and KJ Jefferson's pretty mobile too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jackson Dart is a mobile quarterback.
Yeah.
They play
So, like,
little quarterbacks. They struggle.
They struggle.
Big
So
time.
Jackson Dart is a mobile quarterback. So like I don't know how LSU defense is gonna do against him.
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
Ole Miss
Rest of them
team,
is awful.
this Ole Miss team is too good to lose 2 back-to-back games.
Yeah.
I don't see it.
No, and they lost to Alabama. That's a hard environment to play in. And then LSU won by a field goal. This is not a team that Ole Miss is not the team you can only win by a last-second field goal against. Ole Miss is going to be much better than Arkansas by way of their defense is actually going to put LSU in its place. And I think Ole Miss just has the ability to win. They've got a better offense. I think Jackson Dart is gonna really mess with that defense because if he doesn't have his option in the air, he's just gonna slip out of the pocket and then take you by like 7 to 10 yards,
Yeah.
easy. So I think Ole Miss wins by about 10 to 14.
That's fair. All right.
Time for game day.
On ABC at 7:30, we got Notre Dame, number 11 Notre Dame, favored by 5.5 at number 17 Duke.
Can I take this one?
Yeah, go ahead.
So Notre Dame coming off of that hard home loss against the Buckeyes. It could have gone their way. I think it should have gone their way. That last drive, KJ Jefferson looked really good.
KJ Jefferson.
What?
Not KJ Jefferson. Whoa.
What?
Calm Court.
Yeah, another transfer quarterback.
Oh, no. Better quarterback. Kyle McCord.
Yeah.
What?
Hey,
KJ Jefferson
hey,
better
if
than
you put
Kyle
KJ
McCord.
Jefferson on that Ohio State team, he's the starter and he's
Now,
thinking
hold on.
about
Alright,
it.
alright.
Okay, going back-
Focus.
Okay. Going back.
Good hit, Michael.
I think you meant to say Virginia Tech, but.
Hey, we'll take anyone at this point.
Kyron Drones.
Throwing it to the dirt.
Alright, Notre Dame coming off of that hard home loss. They go on the road down to Durham, which that's not an intimidating atmosphere at all.
Unless you're Clemson.
Exactly. But, you know. What's the spread on that? A 5.5 point spread? They cover that easily. I think it'll be closer than people expect, but I think they still win by about a touchdown. I think Sam Hartman's just much better of a quarterback. So, and I think their defense actually holds Riley Leonard like it did against Ohio State. Ohio State wasn't able to put up a lot of points on offense. I mean, they were still able to get the win, but I think.
Cannot score. No offense.
No. It wasn't that it was no offense by Ohio State. Ohio State's
We were moving the ball. We couldn't convert.
you could not finish the drive.
They don't have
You know
no.
what I'm saying?
Ohio State don't have no good receivers that can get the ball downfield. That's what I have a lot.
Be fair, Notre Dame was doing the same.
Move on. He's just running.
Notre Dame also couldn't do the same, but that's also because Ohio State actually has a defense that I don't think Duke has. I think Notre Dame wins it by 7 to 10 points.
I agree. I mean, like, Ohio State has a good defense, but Notre Dame at the same time was driving down the field, and then Notre Dame would mess it up somehow.
Yeah.
Like, they would not get it on 4th down or something,
Or they missed
or
a
they
field goal.
miss a field goal, or they just go for field goals. And I don't think Duke has really, I'm going to say this, I don't think Duke has really played anybody yet, because at this point,
Yes.
Clemson
Yeah.
has
2-2. We did put up a fight against Florida State, but that was a disaster for Clemson in that game. Other than that, I don't think Duke has played anyone yet, especially not something like Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame wins by like 2 touchdowns.
Alright, let me take over this.
Oh boy.
Notre Dame is walking into that toilet seat looking stadium in Durham.
What?
The most there's not an atmosphere there. There's not. That is a basketball school. They're just there drunk, just having a good time. They don't care about the game. They don't care about Duke football.
Sounds like coastal.
When Duke beat Clemson, Clemson had a daggum disaster class. That was a historically bad performance by Clemson, and Duke just took advantage of it. I mean, Clemson was missing field goals, fumbling in the red zone.
Yeah.
Multiple
Twice.
times.
I don't think
On the goal line.
I mean, yeah, Riley Leonard had that one run. That was about it. Duke, I did not do anything special that game. And after that, they played Northwestern, UConn, and like Buford. That's about it. They haven't played anybody.
That's Tanner Respi's team. He's talking.
I'm gonna be quiet on that one. Duke has not played anyone. I don't think this Notre Dame team is a good team, regardless of what happened last week. They're still loaded. Sam Hartman's a good quarterback. He's put up Heisman numbers. And Duke, they don't have a defense and an offense like Ohio State does. I think Notre Dame wants revenge. They want to show everyone that they are still a contender. They walk away in Durham. They walk away. They're
I
going to
think so.
smoke. Duke is going to get smoked. They're going to be put in their place.
I think this is a 14-point victory for Notre Dame. I think Duke keeps it close early. I think Notre Dame pulls away. I think their defense is too good. I think they hold Duke to, 14 points or so. Maybe not even. I think their defense is really, really good. They're number 20. I think his last name is Benjamin. He's a really good cornerback. Their defensive line's pretty good. And I think Riley Leonard's a good quarterback. Definitely a different style of quarterback than you saw last week from Kyle McCord. Kyle McCord is more of a pocket guy. He can hurt you with his arm, but I think Riley Leonard's gonna. I don't know if they've necessarily played somebody that can get out and run besides maybe like Brennan Armstrong, but I think Riley Leonard's far better. more capable
Brennan
with his
Armstrong
legs.
is garbage.
I think he's far more capable with his legs than Brennan Armstrong is. So
He's more capable than a lot of things. Than Armstrong.
Brennan Armstrong was garbage at UVA.
But I think that Notre Dame, I think they're going to be kind of beat up from last week. Last week was a really physical game, and have to get up again for another ranked game. Man, that's tough. But I do think they beat them. I think it's going to be close. So
The thing about Notre Dame's always been a physical team. Like that's like Notre Dame. They're a run and be physical team.
yeah.
Yeah.
Notre Dame has a good defense.
Listen, it's like Sam Hartman is a great quarterback. Like not one moment in that Ohio State game, like it literally came down to Kyle McCord got the ball last.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they're both like amazingly poised quarterbacks. Sam Hartman never gets down and never is like shaken. He's always gonna be poised no matter what the situation is. And like our defense played well, and he was still like waiting and finding guys.
Yeah.
And I don't think Notre Dame has the greatest receiver core by any means, but I think he's just that good of a quarterback that he makes his receivers better.
And then
And I think he's just too much for Duke.
I don't think Duke's gonna be able to handle the run either. I mean,
Yeah.
SMA's a good running
Yeah.
back, and I mean, there was times he would get on like just spurts where he would cut through y'all's defense.
Yeah.
And y'all have a good defense.
Yeah.
I don't think Duke is
Yeah.
just no. That's all I
Notre
gotta
Dame
say.
is very much a precision team where Sam Hartman's going to be a surgeon. He's just going to pick apart your defense. He's just going to slice it. He did that to Ohio State. Yes, they couldn't convert at the end, but that seemed more like almost a coaching issue where I thought they weren't calling the best plays. And that run game, I mean, it's gonna beat you down at some point. But
I feel like Notre Dame's Michigan with a better quarterback.
honestly, I could agree with that.
They're the same play style.
They have a very similar play style where it's very much a run heavy offense.
And I definitely think that Sam Hartman's a better quarterback than JJ McCarthy.
JJ McCarthy.
As of this year,
I think a lot of people would agree with that statement.
Yeah.
yes.
I don't think that's anything out of the blue.
No, I mean Sam Hartman had to carry weight.
But JJ McCarthy doesn't have to do anything in that offense.
No, he doesn't.
All he does is dink and dunks or 5-7 yard slants.
As long as he doesn't have to turn the ball over, Michigan isn't gonna have a problem.
See, exactly. Duke football is so irrelevant. We didn't got to talk about Michigan there.
Exactly. Exactly.
Alright,
Roll.
you're left.
Yeah.
Oh man, I got Notre Dame winning by about 17 here. I feel like they come out. I would want to be lined up against Notre Dame. I mean, you were right there last week, and I feel like they can just come out and. I feel like from here on out, Notre Dame is going to be one of them teams where they might not get into the playoffs, but I feel like they're going to be doing their best to try to make their case that hey, we were right there with Ohio State.
Mhm.
Hey, we were. You know what I mean? I feel like they're going to put it to everybody else coming on their schedule for the rest of the season. I feel I feel like this is the starting point of Notre Dame showing that they were one play short of, contending with like a top 4 team. As much as I hate to say this, a top 4 team.
Yes.
But number 4, I do gotta say that.
All right, let's move on real quick.
Boy.
We got some crazy. Look at Tanner. All right, so as of this week, my thing about I pride myself on my rankings. They change weekly. They can change very drastically, and I think it's a mix between what I see on the field and what you have done. What games? Who have you beat? How have you looked in those games that you won? So to start off, the first couple weeks I didn't have Ohio State in the top 4
That's fair.
No, that's fair.
because I didn't feel like they deserved it based on the way they play, and I knew that they're capable of playing well, and I feel like we saw some of that last week. I think they continue to get better on offense. They have all the pieces they need, and their defense proved to me against a good opponent that they can play at the highest level, and I think that's what really did it. And you also saw Kyle McCord step in, say, hey, there's no doubt, I'm the guy. All of my teammates know I'm the guy. I'm going to go in with a minute and 20 seconds or whatever it was and drive down the field and go win a big game. And that was huge because C.J. Stroud had the opportunity when he was starting his first time at Ohio State, and he didn't get it done against Oregon. And I think that was that same game for Kyle McCord and in his away game, and I think he went and got it done. And that to me says a lot about you, and I don't think there's many guys in the country that were making throws like he was towards the end of that game, especially the one to Ibuka on 3rd and 19. That is an extremely hard throw. But I think for that reason, I think they have probably the best win in college football. Maybe Texas and Ohio State. That you could say either or win against Alabama or Notre Dame is the best win. But I think Texas and Ohio State, they're very interchangeable. Texas, number 2, they beat Alabama. They didn't look great against Wyoming. They turned around. They got it together against Baylor. They have a big game this week against Kansas. I'm interested to see how they play in that game. Washington, they've been high-flying. I know they haven't been playing the greatest teams, but they have been dominating on every single facet of the game. Their offense has been humming. Their defense is really, really good. And then for number 4, I'm going to go Florida State, and they beat LSU obviously in week 1. They didn't look great last week against Boston College, but then you go into Clemson, and I know Clemson hasn't been great this year. I still think Clemson's a pretty good team, regardless of what the scores has been saying. And I think if you're just a scoreboard watcher, you probably say otherwise. But if you've been watching the games, you know that Clemson is not as bad as they made it out to be. They could have won that game. They should have won that game against Florida State. I think they win probably more than not, especially going into overtime in that game. But they lost, and they didn't get it done. Florida State, you have to give them the credit. They won the game on the field. And they also beat LSU by a lot. Now, I don't think LSU is a great team, but I still think that's 2 good wins, especially going into Death Valley and winning. I think that's big time. So that's my top 4.
Alright, well, I decided to move Florida State up to the number 1 spot with a little bit of bias, if I'm being honest. So they beat LSU in week 1. That's a great win, beating the brakes off LSU too.
Yeah.
And going into Clemson, after they've already lost the game to Duke, which they basically shouldn't have lost the game, but whatever. It's not an easy thing to do at all. It was a sold out crowd too, and if you watch the game, you could hear how loud it was in Clemson.
Yeah.
Death Valley was rocking. And Florida State still went in there. Jordan Travis was dealing with an injury like the whole game, like a shoulder injury.
As always.
And they still, that's because all he does is run and get hit. And they still went in there and they won the game. I mean, I still think Clemson has a really good defense, and they still scored 31 on them, beat us in overtime. And honestly, our offense looked pretty good. But other than that, Florida State just made better plays at the end of the day, like with the sack on K Klubman, where he got blindsided and dropped the ball. So I think Florida State is just capable of making those plays, and I just think they're an all-around good football team. But they wouldn't even be on this list if we had a kicker. That's all I'm going to say. And then my number 2, I don't even want to say it, man. I don't even want to say what happened.
Like Max says, that team up north. That's how we start referring to them. That team up north.
I don't even want to talk about it. The worst thing happened on Saturday where Ohio State actually won a good football game. So I have Ohio State
Hold on. What if? Number 2, what if?
at number 2, and I'm not going to go any further into that. I'm just putting them there as the second best team in the nation right now. Maybe third under Washington, but I have Washington at 3. I still really like Washington. I think there's a case between Washington being the number 1 team. I think honestly, my top 3, I think all 3 of those could be at the number 1 spot right now. Washington's just great offensively, great defensively, and just great all around. And then I have Texas. Texas struggled against Wyoming, but they murdered Baylor. I just think, after this week, I think if they could win, they may be able to move up, but I just have them at 4 for now.
Okay.
Listen, I just want to point something out. None of us have Georgia in their top 4.
Hold on.
I
Oh,
think
Tanner
that's
does
entertaining.
too. And hold on, there's another fella that does too.
Listen.
Wait.
Here's the thing, though. Georgia hasn't played anybody, man. That's the problem. That's the only thing hindering them from being as good as
I want
they
to
That
have
being
blown
said-
out the UAC,
that being
and I
said-
said not to put them in the first.
The conference did do them a little dirty by making them cancel that Oklahoma game. But that being said, they still haven't.
Yeah,
They
I'm
still
not blaming
No,
Georgia.
no.
I'm saying that their schedule is easy. That's clear.
Yeah.
Look, my basis for not putting Georgia in is the same basis I have for not putting Ohio State on. They didn't play anybody.
Yeah.
I give you credit now because
Exactly.
you won your game.
Yeah.
Until
Until Georgia wins a big game,
I
they
still
don't
think
win
Georgia
their
is still.
It's
When
good,
would Georgia's big game really be though?
The only-
when
I think
this
if
case-
I think here's the thing. It's not necessarily that you have to beat somebody really good. If they go to Auburn this week and win by 28, okay,
Yeah.
then I understand.
Yeah.
Auburn's not that great, but you're not winning games convincingly. If you beat South Carolina by 20, okay.
It's
It's the lack of
Unlike
putting
Huskies.
people away. That's what it
It's
is.
like
it's
what
kind of like
Washington
why
does
I
there.
dropped Ohio State out of my
Listen.
top 4 and didn't keep them there is because they weren't covering the spread. Georgia hasn't been covering the spread, so they haven't been looking that great. They haven't been performing to the expectations that have been set.
Yeah.
So, which is why my number 1 is Washington. They've been looking really good. They haven't played that great of teams, but they have been looking fantastic in the games that they have. Number 2, Florida State. I think they just have a slightly better. That Clemson win is close, but also that's Clemson at Clemson. That is a hard atmosphere. That is one of the best atmospheres to play.
I don't believe we play like an unranked team. Also, I feel like people look at it and they're like, "Oh, they just barely beat an unranked
No.
Clemson
No.
team." That's
No, I don't think
2-1.
anybody.
No, this is
But at the same time, I think they're still
Even
they're basically
to
playing like
power
a ranked
rating,
team. You know?
I would put Clemson in the top 25.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. They're still
Like-
a top 25 team.
they should not have lost that game against Duke, but they did. But the other games they've looked good in, to the point where I think Florida State has a quality win over Clemson, and they have that quality win over LSU, which is why I put them at 2. Whereas Ohio State and Texas, Ohio State at 3, Texas at 4, they have that one quality win where it was close, but it was a very good win because it was against Alabama and Notre Dame. So that's why, and I think Ohio State just looked that much better because I think Notre Dame's a little bit better than Alabama. Both were road wins. But I think Ohio State is just a little bit better than Texas, so I've got Ohio State and then Texas, and then that's it. You don't need to
Alright,
talk
well,
about number 5 and 6.
I have the same stuff as he does. Washington number 1, obviously. I mean, they are putting up historic offensive numbers, and their defense even looks good. So I think that's what, for me, from right now, I think they look like the best team in the country. Now I got Florida State. They went into arguably what I think is probably one of the hardest atmospheres to go in at Clemson. I cannot believe I just uttered those words.
Yeah,
But, I mean-
valid.
I mean, let's be real. Clemson would beat most of the top 25 teams right now.
Oh yeah.
If we're gonna be honest, I think they would beat majority of the teams in the top 25. They just had that nasty scar of that Duke loss. So yeah, Florida State, they got a good win. We saw what they mangled LSU. They're a good team. And I got Ohio State. It's the first time I've had Ohio State in my top 4. So they got that win over Notre Dame. Your offense looks good. Your defense is really good. Only question I have at Ohio State right now is your coaching decisions and crunch time. We all know what we're talking about.
I
The Jets
would push back. I would say okay, yeah. That I'm not. No, I'm not. Saying
I'm not
it's
saying
that.
that's like a big
I think
issue.
crunch time, like a minute 30. Play calling was great.
Oh, that last drive.
Okay.
That last drive
That was
was
I
really
wouldn't
good.
say the
But-
fourth down play was crunch time just yet because they still
Never
had
mind,
time
I
to
didn't-
get the ball back.
Some
I
of their,
misspoke. I
still
went-
think
some
it
of
was
the
terrible
red
play
zone
call.
plays were not great.
I think
I didn't-
some
I
of
didn't
them
mean-
were-
I didn't-
certain play calls weren't good. I think.
I didn't mean crunch time. I meant like when you got like in the red zone.
Yeah,
Your
yeah.
red zone play call
Yeah,
was not that
yeah.
good. Overall, I think your team is solid. Your defense looks good, offense looks good, but your red zone play calling is still a little bit questionable. And then number 4, I got Texas. I think Texas is a team that's probably most likely not going to be in our top 4 at the end of the season. I don't know. Texas, it's just Texas. I don't like Texas. But for right now, they are number 4. They're 4-0. They haven't really, they look good for right now, but that's my top 4 right now.
Last but not least, is it me?
Yes, it
My turn.
is.
Last but not least.
I already know who's number 1 wins.
Actually, you don't.
Oh, I don't.
None of y'all don't.
Oh, okay.
None of y'all don't.
Bill.
Ohio State.
Nope. Nope. Number 1. Number 1. Washington.
Yes.
Number 1. Washington.
Check his temperature.
Hold on a
Jesus
minute.
coming back. I hear the trumpets.
Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. Y'all ain't even heard it.
I want to hear the
Hold on
rest
a
of
minute.
this.
All right. Well, who's number 2?
Number 2. Texas.
Wow. Okay.
What's your reasoning?
No shot.
I feel like, I'm telling you, Alabama, in my opinion, is the toughest place to go in college football when a game on the road. At night, too, Texas. Washington, Texas. Now, this number 3 and 4 is like it's very tough for me to say. Number 3, right now, it kills me inside to say this.
No way.
It hurts real bad.
I don't read this.
The Georgia Bulldogs.
No.
Number 3, Ohio State. It kills me. It kills me to
We
say.
got him. We got him. We got him.
Ladies and gentlemen, we
We
got him.
But number 4, there's nobody in America, nobody, probably not even in the continent, that can tell me in my face, Landon Jordan, Georgia is not a top 4 football team. So number 4 spot, and it could easily go 2, 3, and 4. But right now, Georgia is the 4th best team in college football, my opinion. They haven't won convincingly. No, they haven't blew out who they're supposed to blow out. But Georgia has still found a way in the 4th quarter that there's been no doubt from the 4th quarter to the end of the game that Georgia could potentially lose this game. They have been up, they have showed dominance in the second half. Their first half has been very, very lackadaisical, very. But second half, they stepped it up. And I feel like this weekend, this is one of the biggest games on Georgia's schedule. I just feel like at Auburn could really, Auburn could, if Georgia don't have a good first half, Auburn could be winning, or they could be tied up going to halftime. But I feel like Georgia just cranks it up, I feel like if Georgia wins by 20, there's no way you're changing my mind that they're not the best team in college football next week. If they win by 20 at Auburn on the road. First road test, Carson Beck, new quarterback. And Georgia's elite. They have the longest, I know y'all gonna say you can't base it off so-and-so years ahead. It's still hard to stay focused and have this long of a winning streak with their last loss being in 2021 in the SEC championship game against Alabama. It takes a lot of discipline, a lot of focus. You can say what you want to, but still. Kirby Smart has still, these boys are playing, they're just disciplined. Kirby Smart's got them different. This wise, I believe right now, in my opinion, Kirby Smart may be, under Nick Saban, not even close best coach of college football. I feel like he's keeping these guys focused, these younger guys. They've got a lot of transfers and a receiver. So I'm telling you, Georgia's top 4 team easy right now. That's my take on it.
I can't believe you put Ohio State at 3.
Yeah,
Over.
I am.
that's an extra point.
They're interchangeable though.
That's a moment.
Georgia has
Historic
five.
moment.
Like I said, if Georgia wins convincingly, they win by 20 points. I mean, they're the best team in the country, in my opinion. But they can't just squeak out this Auburn win and just that number one though. Like I said, when Clemson was winning national championship and stuff, they were sitting up high at number 1, 2. You know what I mean? When Georgia's about, in my opinion, they're about the same schedule wise and performance wise Clemson was in 2018. But then they cranked up the jet against Alabama in the national championship. They squeaked by, start with. There's games they should have blown out. They won by 10, 14. So I feel like I'm not saying Georgia's dynasty's over with because it ain't. My opinion, it's just getting started. But I'm telling you,
Oh, great.
I'm telling you, can't count out the Athens Bulldogs. Is all I'm telling you.
All right.
All right.
All right, well, that's gonna do it from the Extra Point crew. Please like, comment, subscribe. Thank you if you've listened this far, and we'll see you in the next one. See ya.